Welcome to the Big Picture Film Club. Today, I'm joined with director and editor of I Could Never Go Vegan documentary, Tom Pickering. Thank you for what and welcome to the Big Picture Film Club. Thank you for joining me here today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very good, thank you. Excited, nervous, slightly sleep deprived because it's been a bit hectic lately, but it's all going well, and I'm very excited for the premiere, which is happening on April 10th, and then the subsequent cinema run after that. So happy times ahead, hopefully.
I had a chance to watch the documentary. I really liked how it does a couple of things really well, but two things I really wanted to highlight was one, the focus on dispelling a lot of the sort of misconceptions around what veganism is and isn't, and also sort of following the athletes as well. And I think that was also important to highlight in parallel. So I guess, from your perspective, like why is now the right time for this documentary, and what inspired you to sort of pick up the camera and get going?
Okay, well, I think there's never really been a better time for a documentary like this, and that's really just even if you look at the urgency that's needed around the need to change in terms of the climate and the crisis we're going through with that. And obviously, veganism plays a big part in that. I'm not saying it's the single solution, but it certainly plays a part. So if you look at just that factor alone, I think there's a real need and an urgency to be had around this topic. And I think the thing is, when you look at veganism, how I look at veganism now, or may other vegans perhaps look at it seems like a huge social injustice, and any injustice you want to try and address immediately, and should be addressed as quickly as possible because in your eyes something terrible is happening, and you want to try your best to do what you can to try and make a difference.
Yeah.
So that's why I think there's definitely a need for this right now. And in terms of like the inspiration around it, really the idea was born from a discussion with my brother, who's also the producer on the film, James. And we were kind of talking about, why were we raised like not eating meat? Because actually we realized we'd never really asked that question. It just at some point it just became very normal.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to actually explore that. And so the catalyst for the film is me asking my mum, why she chose to do that and whether it was actually the right thing to do. Because every day I hear people say, I could never go vegan because of X, Y, Z. And so we wanted to look if there was actually truth to these arguments against veganism. And that kind of set me on this journey, exploring each individual argument, or at least the main ones we hear over and over, and really trying to find out whether there was any justification to them. And it kind of takes me all over the place, which is sort of nice because there's a real variety in the film.
Yeah.
So there's some parts that are serious where they need to be, but other parts are a bit more light-hearted, and there's some humor that's brought out, and then just some general lovely moments as well. And as you say, we follow athletes in the film as well, which is really cool because they're doing ridiculous things and
Yeah.
just entertaining on camera. So yeah, there's a bit of everything, I think, for everyone who watches it.
And yeah, exactly. For the audience, there's a lot to sort of take away, a lot to learn, a lot to think about after the film. And in the process of making the film, uh, I guess what did you learn? What did you feel that you took away from this process?
Well, I would say if possible, have a bigger crew. So we got hit with a pandemic in the middle of it, and obviously that meant everything had to be really scaled down,
Mm,
which kind of helped us in a way because it was a pretty small team in the first place, but it got even smaller as a result, and it meant that we were wearing quite a few hats and doing a lot of things ourselves that maybe we would have brought in hired help on usually. So that definitely made the process a bit harder and took us quite a bit longer to get through it. The whole project took over 4 years from start to finish, so it was a big one.
wow.
So that's, an obvious no-brainer. And I think just the sheer determination that's required to make a film of this scale, because for you compare it to maybe some other documentaries, and I'm not saying any film is easy because it's not, they all have their challenges.
Yeah.
But this one, because it tackled such a huge subject matter, and there were so many different arguments that we were trying to address, and also it's potentially a film that will polarize people because some people, just may have no interest at all, and we're trying to win them over. And so we were really thinking, what's the best way to actually get people to watch it who maybe have no interest in veganism and don't even think they're curious about, to find out more.
Yeah.
And so we had to really strike this balance of trying to make it accessible and entertaining enough in a way that didn't make people switch off and say, no, that's just not for me. I don't want some preachy vegan telling me I need to go vegan. So that's really not what the film is. It really tries to take an objective stance and present the information as it is and just let the viewer decide. And so definitely that was something that we tried to master. I'm not saying we got it perfect, but we certainly put an effort in to really try and make sure that that came across.
And why do you think there is this sort of staunch anti-veganism sort of sentiment about where people will be, I could never go vegan? Um, is it, media conditioning? Is it an education? Is it what sort of plays into that in your opinion and experience?
Honestly, I think there's a number of factors, and largely it's most of us are raised to believe that eating meat or animal products is normal and necessary. And there's a really great person in the film, Dr. Melanie Joy, who uses that phrase, normal, nice, necessary. And we're conditioned from such a young age that we don't really question it. But it's funny, really, because as kids, most children love animals, don't they? And
Mm.
we all want to go and play with animals and talk about how cute animals are, and then it's kind of just there's a real cognitive dissonance when it comes to then the animals on the plate. And I think because it were conditioned from such a young age, we don't really question it then as we get older. And because eating meat is in the majority, I think it's easier to sort of label the vegans as being extreme and different and doing something that's not normal or nice or necessary. And that's kind of you're almost going up against, say, 30 years of people living in a certain way and then effectively telling them, actually, maybe there's a better way. And often we don't want to hear that because
Mm.
we like to think that we're doing everything we can. I think most people, believe they are kind and compassionate people. And we want that's certainly what we want to believe. So for someone to say, oh, I'm a vegan for ethical reasons, I don't believe that eating animals is right, even if you're not deliberately saying to the meat eater what you're doing is wrong, they will probably perceive it that way. And it's easier to say, well, hang on, who are you to come and tell me that what I'm doing is wrong? And
Yeah.
so I think there's an element of that, and that's why it's such a difficult topic. And you have to be very careful when you're communicating with people to understand, so they understand that you're not actually telling them they're wrong in what they're doing. You're just presenting information, and hopefully people will open up and take that on and then make the necessary changes. And the thing is, as well, I think a lot of vegans sometimes can try and hope or force this on too quickly. And the reality is, it's a gradual transition, and we need to be respectful of that. And while of course there is a need to change with like the planet and everything else, we also have to be realistic that everyone's not going to go vegan overnight. So, and we
Mm.
need to try and work with people and help them and support them to make the change. So, again, that's why I go back to the communication aspect and really trying to make sure people hear what you're saying and don't switch off.
And I suppose, for those that have for those who've thought about going vegan, it's quite a switch in diet. How should people go about it, in your opinion, without being too overwhelmed in that sort of drastic change? My own story, like I went I went vegan for a year. This was 2013, and it was partly a challenge to myself, and just to see, actually, can I be more creative with the food I eat, and can I be more sort of understanding. And I think I kind of got to a point where I was lazy with my food. It's, traditional sort of meat and two veg sort of British diet. And so, that year was really interesting for me to explore, actually, what does it mean to put food on the plate? Where does my food come from? I'm still a work in progress in many aspects. But for me, that was for me, it went going straight into the deep end and giving myself sort of like this challenge for a year. But I guess how would you advise people um, not make the jump because that sounds a bit drastic, but make the switch or try out a vegan diet for a week, a month?
So there's a few things I think you can do. And that's really cool to hear that you did that so long ago as well. So you probably started the trend. Uh,
I don't.
but there's a few things I think you can do. So that you mentioned not being overwhelmed there, and I think that's a key thing. So even when I went vegan, so I was only going from vegetarian to vegan, it was quite an overwhelming experience. So I can only imagine what it would feel like if you've eaten, nothing but meat all your life. So it's really taking it one step at a time. So I would literally start with like a day a week and explore with cooking. Because the thing I found when I started actually when I went vegan is I became so much better in the kitchen. Because a bit
Yeah.
like what you were saying, I'd kind of cooking maybe a handful of the same meals over and over week by week, and it actually forced me to explore and like get creative with herbs and spices and certain fruits and vegetables that I didn't even know existed. And I was like, what the heck is this thing here? And a kumquat, and it's like this little tiny thing, and I'm like, what is it? And so I was just trying different foods, and before I knew it, I actually would consider myself now quite a reasonable cook, and I would never have thought that. And so it forced me to get creative in the kitchen. And I think that's the thing that will happen if you take it one step at a time, and don't beat yourself up if you do slip up. So because it will happen. It's especially when you're going and you're eating out and stuff. At first, you probably won't realize just how many different products have like milk powder or something in,
Yeah.
and it can be easy to make a mistake. And sometimes people will do that and they think, "Oh, well, what's the point? It's ruined now." And obviously, just don't think of it like that. Just think it wasn't intentional, and that's the thing. The intent wasn't there. I made a mistake. I'll just pick up, and now I know. And that's the brilliant thing with mistakes. We always learn and don't repeat them, hopefully. So I think the key thing is really take it one step at a time, and then try and find other like-minded people, which is so easy now. So, for example, just go on Facebook in your area, and I guarantee your city or town will have a group, and just try and meet people there, ask for recommendations of where to eat or different types of recipes. There's various resources online that you can really pull on as well. There's so many different cookbooks and things. I mean, the Happy Pair who are in our film, they have loads of cookbooks and they're fantastic because they do things where you can cook a meal in 5 minutes, like a chickpea curry, which we do in the film, and
Mm.
it's delicious as well, I would say. And literally, it took 5 minutes to cook. So there's things like that where I would say it doesn't need to be difficult at all, and I think we build it up in our head. So just surround yourself with the people who can help you, and do a bit of research first before you dive straight in, and you will be fine.
And I guess final question is like, what is the one thing you'd hope viewers take away from I Could Never Go Vegan?
Honestly, I just hope people can watch it and have an open mind while they're watching it, because we're not we're not trying to brainwash people. We're literally just presenting the information, and we speak to such a variety of incredible professionals in their fields to get, really sound scientific advice where needed. And I just think please just watch it with an open mind and then see what you think, because we really leave it open to the viewer to make up their decision at the end of the film. And hopefully we've presented the information in a way that's also entertaining, and you can enjoy the experience as well and learn a thing or two. And really, I think that's what a documentary is all about.
Well, Tom, thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for joining us at the Big Picture Film Club. You've made a fantastic documentary, and I hope it really does go far and wide. It's an incredible watch, and yeah, it's something that I do hope people sort of approach with an open mind.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.